thinking, why not? You know, like those guys. But after they started realizing so many comments are coming in, so many feedback, if you guys come live in North America, you can play. Basically, this is how it went. And they were like, all right, we can do it. You know, we had no idea. And then ZPK was like, I have a friend in the United States who maybe can accommodate us for 3 months. And that's when Ricardo, who is now 00NATION and worked so many years with us in SK, in LG, that's when he kicks in with Camila. And he's like, okay, you guys can come, no problem, we're going to figure it out.
Oh, short day, okay. Good day.
Keep it short.
Yeah.
What was it like having 5 gamers move in and kind of change your whole home life?
Well, 7.
7.
7 to start. I was pretty weird, I would say. Like, been playing the game throughout like 15 years. I was really good friends with ZQK back then. He got in touch with me saying like, oh, we're gonna have a tournament right there. I think it was like EPL or something like that. And I was like, okay, yeah, let me know when you guys are playing. And I just gonna come and check and say hi. 20 minutes later, they're like, yeah, we have no place to stay. Can we stay at your place? Of course, I went to ask my wife if we could do that. She's like, okay, but how long? I asked them, like, oh, the tournament just gonna take 2 months. They end up like being with us for 6 years, 5 years. When they got there, it was like pretty intense, I would say. Not in a sense that like tournaments, but pretty intense that people really wanted to make it work. And that feeling I will never forget. I've been throughout like almost like 50, 60 players, and just few of them actually had this fire that's like make it or break it. Was pretty crazy, but it was probably one of the most fun times I ever had.
We go to US as kid stars. After the first major, that's when some international organizations start showing up, and then we transition to LG. So when thinking about this change, Taco and FNX for bolts and steel, and also Zeus for neck too, when we made those 3 changes, as a person, I already knew FNX from the past, and I even told the guys, I know FNX, it's gonna work. We just don't know for how long, because I already lived that with him for so many years. I already lived this moment with him for 2 or 3 times. It's gonna be the 4th. And he delivered much more.
Take a breath.
You know, in terms of performance, he was exactly what I wanted. You know, he was winning the clutches. He was the guy that could perform. I had no idea about Taco. You know, something very personal about Taco is, I kind of doubt him at first. He's the type of people who will put the team at first, you know. It's the team at first, and I'm gonna do everything the team needs. I already knew that. But as a player, as performance-wise, I was a little bit skeptical. And there was one game we played against NIP at the very first tournament. He won a 1v4 Mirage game. He's retaking A from jungle. Alu, for some reason, jumps in triple, gives him a kill. He managed to get 3 more. That's when I say, he has it all, baby, you know?
When you get the call from Fallen to join LG, how long did it take you to make up your mind?
It was fast. Deep in my heart, when FNX told me that we could make a difference joining them, that's exactly what I felt. I knew that they needed someone like me in their team. I knew that they needed someone that is selfless, someone that would help them to achieve what they wanted to achieve, because they had already Coldzera and Fur, obviously Fallen. With these 3 pieces, you don't need another star. You don't need another star player. So I knew that I could make the difference. That's the biggest reason why I decided to join them, and that was not a hard decision, to be fair.
You know, it was clear that the potential was there for that Brazilian lineup, making 3 top 8s at the majors, but it was also, you know, the era of a lot of best of ones, map randomizers and whatnot, and you could tell if they were going to make it to the next level, changes had to be made. Once they did pull the trigger on that change, you know, Taco joining with Zeus a day before the Face It Grand Finals, you know, at the DreamHack Winter, there were a lot of question marks. The first game that lineup ever played was a 16-0 loss.
I remember after we lost 16-0, I got the team together and I said, what's the difference? Had we lost 16-14, would we feel better? It's a new team. You know, like we gotta go through stuff.
But from that first loss, they ended up playing in the grand final of that event against Fnatic and being 1-0 up. That was the best result that lineup ever had in their first event with almost no practice with Taco. So you could tell that it was very promising, that it seemed like they did make the correct decision, right? Cold was already establishing himself at that point as a star player of the team, and obviously Fallen as the experienced in-game leader and the AWP player having a lot of impact himself.
I actually believe Luminosity has what it takes in this final in total, and on Overpass, yeah, I feel this is a map, one of the maps they actually have to win in order to win this grand final.
You know, a lot of things fell into place. They beat already Fnatic in a best-of-1 in a group stage of that tournament. They had a grueling series against Na'Vi in the semifinal, where Na'Vi actually revealed some of the strategies they had been saving for the major, some boosts on Overpass, notoriously triple boosts. They managed to grind out some tough games. I felt that really hardened them. Seeing as how they lost a couple of close series to Fnatic, you know, this has to be the one time that it goes their way.
Katowice 2006, I remember this. Oof, it's like 2-3 rounds that I remember. It's gonna haunt me forever in that game. But of course, you always had an eye for like Fallen. It's been around the game like 1.6 even earlier. I didn't even play it. I believe we did a super comeback against them on Overpass. I think that got the gas out of the tank, or how do you want to say it, of them. And you can only get that experience from playing more finals, right? So I think they weren't like 100% ready after that comeback. I think we just had the game right there.
As you were desperate to win because you wanted so much, because you won it. So you're already going to change the way you think, you're already going to behave differently. And I think when the feeling that we would win would show up on the most nervous times, you know, like in the finals, when the deciding factors could change, we were still choking because the mental factor wasn't too strong.
We realized we're a good team, we have the pieces, but the start of the match, towards the end of the match, the rhythm changes, the story that you're telling changes, and closing out a match needs a layer of experience, but it also needs a layer of patience. And that was the biggest thing for us, is we learned to control all the emotions. Everyone says Brazilians are hype, we are. And that could be very positive, but it can have a toll on you in the moment in the game where you let your emotions take control of you, where you're not thinking clearly, where sometimes you just need to stop, relax, let them make the mistake, and then you can close it out.
Unfortunately, it wasn't meant to be yet again. They lose 3-0, but 2 of the 3 maps go into overtime, right? It's another close series, and also something felt off, right? Cold was the worst performer for LG in that series, being one of their best players, obviously, and on the other side, you had Olof with a signature grand final, right? Best player of 2015. It wasn't meant to be in Katowice either, but you could tell, you know, it was about to happen. Success was just around the corner for the Brazilians.
Comes once again, the first base is a Dren, he's gonna hit the roll. Oh, what? Jumping double for Cold! What is going on right now?
Effective actually. Oh, and gets the shot on the flaming, even spots the man. Good night, Zeus!
It may just be destined to be. It's Luminosity winning their first major championship.
All the Tech-9s to work with. We're gonna try and shut them down as they walk back through, but FNX and Fallen are the ones to do it instead. Which does fall down, but Fallen recovers that and pulls it back. Snack's down as well. He's on the M4 this time. He's got 2. Transfer on to Nino. Snack's trying to find the equalizer, but look at Cold go. He's got an ace in overtime.
SK Gaming, second major championship in a row.
I feel like I remember that time pretty well. Yeah. So we'll see. Cold back then just didn't make any mistakes. He was so fundamentally sound, and that's just like the traits of like a top tier player. Like they just don't make mistakes. They make things happen out of nowhere. And it's just really hard to play against players like that.
He couldn't make a mistake when he was playing the game. When you're playing against that, you have to understand that when you're in like clutch situations and at any point in the round, like you understand where he is, but even if you know where he is, it's still like really hard to kill him, and you just had to respect the guy. It was just too insane.
I knew Cold was a star. He was always one of the best, if not the best players in Brazil. I never lost faith on him. Even when he had a bad performance, I knew that he was super good and he would become something else, and that's what happened actually. I remember one time when he decided to not play CSGO anymore, and he was playing League of Legends, and he had a high rank, and he was doing great. And I remember me convincing him on his team, talking to him and say, Code, you need to come back. Man, you need to come back. Don't do that, please. Come back to our team. Let's do good things together.
The foolish first round, the poor first round from them that they have.
I went to Cologne, was my first boot camp to be playing the Cologne Major in 2015. Before my first practice, I asked them how hard it was playing against European teams, because I never played against Ray. So, and they said, like, you have like 1 second to kill them. If you don't kill them, they're gonna kill you. And I was, okay, that sounds fair. In my first three practice, I dropped 47 bombs, 42 bombs, and 43 bombs. So, and I was like, oh, that's everything they have. I was just focused off myself. I just forgot all my entire life. When you have a personal problem, it's kind of hard to deal with the game. So I just put everything back and I just focused inside the game. I forgot about everything and I was just playing like 15 hours a day. And I was really ready.
He used to be the first one in, last one out. It's not about just talent, it's about doing the basic steps very cleanly, not making mistakes. And that's kind of the way that he instructed Brazilian CS to come. More players learn to be thorough in their steps, not make that little mistake. And that's the best thing I can say about him, because he taught an entire generation of players how to do their due diligence. And that's amazing to me, at least coming from a coaching perspective.
Early 2017 was a really weird time for SK Gaming. There was some turmoil within the team, which led to them removing FNX, this longtime core member. They ended up going to the E-League Atlanta Major and having to play with a sub. It was Fox, a Portuguese player who was sort of at the end of his career, end of the road for him. Then they added Phelps after the fact, and it took them a little bit of time to kind of warm up with Phelps within the roster and the issues that came along with that. What was really interesting was FNX was transferred over to Immortals, who were like the next in line of the Brazilian teams, the next team from the region that was supposed to be like really top contenders. And so quickly, they just hit the ground running right into Katowice. Immortals had some power in them that nobody realized, that maybe they didn't even perhaps realize. And they would get a chance to showcase it at the second major in the year at Krakow.
So before the stage opened, we were screaming like, "Woo, let's go!" And you know, it felt like it was not even a video game. It felt like I was going on a football match.
Immortals was maybe the perfect contrast to the SK Gaming team that we knew, and kind of the system that they had built and the tendencies that we started to know SK for. Well, SK was methodical and well drilled, and there was a process to every single step they made. Immortals on the other side of things was just embodied by energy and by emotion.
SK had that style where we were meticulous, we were methodic, we knew our step by step. Immortals lived more of the Brazilian structure of let's hype this up. If we start a match well, or if we get into that rhythm, no one can stop us, even SK.
Taz goes to the smoke. Taz goes to the smoke. He won't find it. It's done.
I remember Lucas screaming looking at the boys and saying, "We're not gonna lose this. We're not gonna lose. Let's go!" And we start to shout. The referee, he came to me and said, "Say to your team to not shout." And I got back to him. I'm not gonna say this. I want them to shout. I want them to feel. I want them to give everything there. Like they're gonna leave their soul, their body, their mind inside the server, and I don't care.
They were a storm that they couldn't even control, that no one could control, and nobody knew where it was going to go. And they started going, and the emotion was flying, and the energy was building up. I don't even think they were able to control it in any meaningful way, and I don't think they wanted to control it in any meaningful way.
It was very fun to see Henny and G in the server together. Back in those days, Henny, I think he was the fastest Alper I ever saw in my life. And I saw Fallen playing in the same team. I saw Kogu, like some Brazilian, like the best Alpers. I never saw someone so fast as Henny.
Henny, what are you doing? That's a quad kill.
And KNG, he's not just the game and the play style. Like, he's a leader, you know? KNG could, if we were down like, I don't know, 10-5, he could like say some words that would ignite a fire inside of the other players. And that's what was a key part of a team that was missing on Immortals.
I thought they were a little bit crazy playing. I don't think that could last. And in the end, it didn't last much, to be honest. They only had this big run at the major. But if you think about it now, later on, I kind of think that they were a little bit ahead of the map at the time. Like they were able to get more space and be more aggressive than teams would be. And that kind of gave us their ledge then. They played well, they had their system, and it's a shame that they didn't win it. I think Gambit came back after losing the first map, they almost got it.
Hobbit with his clutches, Zeus with the clutches, they really needed to bring everything they've got into this game to be able to close it out despite the result.
So this Phelps era of SK Gaming kind of ends in October of 2017, but really I think, you know, a struggle to kind of incorporate him into the team and make him work appropriately the way they envisioned. That was a long time coming and a long time building, and certainly that loss in Krakow and the fashion in which it happened, I think maybe, you know, one of the daggers that kind of led to his eventual removal. I kind of felt like that started the path to when he was going to leave the team. And they bring in Bolts. They actually bring in a player from the Immortals lineup that made that deep run, who showed some very good rifling and showed a different style. The addition of Bolts instead of Phelps happened because the internal problems we're dealing with. Again, we didn't come to a solution where we could sustain Phelps into the team. Bolts was kind of a player that would fit a little bit more role-wise because he's a little bit more passive, play more lurkers, you know, so we found a way to get good together again. SK with Bolts in the lineup went on a spree to end out 2017 of lifting trophies and lifting championships and showing that once again they'd found a recipe to be championship contenders. When that phase team came up and we saw the news that they would be getting together, Loft, Nico, all those guys, Alu, Kyoshima at the time, it was kind of refreshing for us because it was the first time that we felt that some team could come and really try to take away our throne, you know. So we felt challenged. It kind of gave us a bigger motivation to give a little bit more.
I don't think really I took a lot from Fallen. I think it's very dangerous to, when you lose to a team, you like kind of lose, oh, they play really good, they did this really good, and you try to learn from them. But the moment you try to affect that on your team, you have different players, different philosophy, and it's very hard to copy that a lot. What I have done probably in the games was to take small moves, maybe setups, how they react, and stuff like that. I don't think Fallen in that sense were in my head. He probably thought more he's in my head than he actually was, you know? Like, I know this myself, if I feel like I'm having a good game plan and calling good against a specific style, you feel on top of the world in every single situation, and I think that's what happened, right? They are played as in many scenarios in the later stage of games. Yeah, I think the overthinking is always rough, but I learned obviously not to change my philosophy or change how I approach the game, but do small adaptations instead of like overthinking that we should copy the best team in the world and play one-to-one like them, but rather find our own way to the top again. Back then it felt like we had the same as SK. We had Guardian versus Fallen, pretty two good Orbers. We had Cold Zero, That's Wise versus Nico, really close as well. And then Rain and Furia, obviously, right? And then you have the team kind of set against each other, who is the best in different roles. And yeah, they came on top, and I'm not sure if we performed worse as players against them. I haven't checked that fact, but obviously we struggled as a team, both as individuals and team philosophy. I don't think there was anything super specific about playing Carrion. It just happened that we won more than we lost at the time. The way we thought about the game was a little bit better than the way they thought, at least when we play ourselves, right? I remember I could study a little bit from their games and get a little bit of their openings, and I could break their openings with some picks here and there. And then I can't really say, like, the performance from the team was super good. The players we had at the time, they were playing their best game at their peak. Some of the best players in the world, and then stuff just happened.
Yeah, I don't think I played too often against Luminosity in 2016, maybe like once or twice, and obviously I didn't really stand a chance versus them back then.
not that I did in 2017. I think it was just inside the server. It just felt like we were getting outplayed when we were playing versus them. It seemed like they always like force us to do mistakes in clutch situations. I remember like we lost a lot of clutch situations, like late rounds, 3 versus 3. They always bait us out, and they just like win the clutch somehow. I think that was their biggest strength back then.
When you start doing very well, it's easy to get into a routine. It's easy to take some things for granted. It's easy to not put in the exact effort you were putting into the small details. We were really good, and we were first of our generation kind of a thing. We evolved the game. We needed to keep bettering ourselves, and some internal moments didn't allow history to follow that course where we'd keep bettering ourselves and keep humbling ourselves. And you hear all the time that you're really good. You start believing that you're really good. We knew in the start that the best will always make mistakes, and when we stop listening to the mistakes and just focusing on what we did right, that starts a little bit of the downturn. I think that's a little bit of every generational team, or every team that has a little bit of the best in the world in them. You're the only one that can take yourselves down, and that's kind of what we did.
I don't think that we did a good job at controlling our egos and solving the problems that were popping up, because when you are the best in the world, a lot of people are watching you and they want to beat you.
One more round, please.
I don't think we dealt very good with that. In a way, forgetting a little bit what we did to get there, how hard we worked to get there.
The ego or the selfishness can destroy a little bit yourself or the team as well. And I think in 2018, we kind of broke in pieces our team. We removed Taco. I think Taco was the most important piece inside the team, not just as a player, but as a human as well. And when we lose Taco, I think we lose kind of half of the team.
Later on, we decided to even remove Taco. I think that was our biggest mistake, because Taco was the glue of the team. With talks and maybe find the right approach, it would be fixable. But instead, we wanted to go international. And that's when we thought of playing with Simple and Flame at first. That almost happened. They were about to get into a plane, and they kind of gave up at the very end. That's when the international plan kind of had to go to a plan B.
We brought Stewie and Tarek. And for me, it was a crazy experience because I didn't speak English at that time. So it was really hard for me.
Getting the chance to know Stewie and Tarek for me was very cool. I think two of the coolest guys I met in the CS. It was amazing to play with Tarek as well. In-game was a little bit harder to really get him integrated into the team. A little bit because of the toxicity that existed there from the Brazilian part, unfortunately. And I think the team was decent. I think the team was good. We had Yanko as a coach. I really liked Yanko as a coach. I think he was very strict. He tried to recreate the right spirit that we should have. He's the guy that could come to someone and say, hey, take your foot away from the table, we're playing. These kind of things that was pretty hard to do with very good players, you gotta have the attitude. But in the end, problems were too much, and the burnout was kind of hard. Even changing the players, some of the spirit of the group was already damaged with all the years playing together in the burnout.
We just exploded the team from inside to outside. I think it was so many problems outside, and we are putting all these problems or personal problems outside, inside the team. People were not comfortable. People are not happy. We were kind of not enjoying playing CS.
Let's go!
Actually, we were not playing bad. We were just creating problems and not solutioning these problems. And we are just playing with the head, not inside the game.
I think there's two things to it when a team is falling down. The meta is changing, people are getting better, both as a team, also as individuals. But when you're also used to winning so much, maybe you lose some of that hunger. And when you lose some of that hunger and the meta is changing also, you will have a hard time coming back. And I think that's what happens to most top teams.
People got tired of speaking English. We're speaking another language, not playing that well. We gotta go back to Brazilians. And that's when Cold convinced Taco to come back. Like, we kind of trying to fix mistakes we did in the past. We got Zeus again. And then for the new player, we tried Phelps once again. And in my opinion, we had the right pieces to kind of slowly get to where we want to be. But the patience just wasn't there anymore. And that's when Cold kind of wanted to go for something more solo, and then he departed to face later on.
Every story has a beginning, a middle, and an end. We could have made ours last longer, and I think how we do it, each teammate that I had will have their version of it. But in the end, we all, I think, know individual things we could have done better to at least be more malleable toward the situation. To me, that's what we would have done. It's not one big thing, it's a sum of small things that we could have done to prevent it or extend our situation, sort of like Astralis did. It's about making the best of the situation and keeping it healthy.
I definitely think that the Brazilian guys had an error. They dominated the game for quite some time, and the story they have been making is truly amazing. Also coming from the things that they came from and coming to be the #1 team in the world for some time. I think that's a really good story, and yeah, I think they had an error for sure.
They're sacrificing everything, living in US, away from family, and they only do it just to play this game and to become the best. And I think that ignited something inside me the last few years to see what they have done for the Brazilian community. And obviously I wish to do the same for new ideals, right? To ignite some energy in them and fire that they can always manage to win, even if they don't believe always.
They were not playing Counter-Strike by the books. I don't think they've ever played Counter-Strike by the books. They wrote their own rules. Yin and the yang, right? You had the Fallen philosophy or school of thoughts, which was really slow and controlled and always in the great parameters, whereas Furia was more the absolute chaos. Playing the odds or playing against the odds, playing the fast Counter-Strike when they had to play slow, gambling when you didn't really have to, pushing the envelope, going ahead and taking territory when you didn't need to.
They have a incredible talented team. I think that's most scary or annoying team to play because you don't know which Furia will turn up on the server. Because Serato will be there. If artists will having high impact, it's really hard to play them.
Good to play around for this one.
I think they have a special capability of playing in a way that no one else plays. And I think that makes them scary and that makes them win games. And that's why they had the success they had. But at the same time, it's not a system that you can consistently be good.
I think they have strong individuals. I just think like their playstyle is not consistent. I think their playstyle it's good when it works, but when it doesn't, it looks really bad, you know?
I rate Serato and Yuri very highly as a duo. I think they're very skilled. I think Serato, especially in the last year or two, has been playing lights out. And I think the fact that they don't have any, not major trophies, but any trophies, probably speaks volumes of how mismanaged that team has been.
If they would have the other system that everyone has, if they would think the way that everyone thinks, and they understand that now they can play it too, and then if you can add what they have as a difference, that's when I think Furia could be scary. I can kind of feel that movement happening right now a little bit on their game style, some maps. And I think if Furia manage to do that properly, they can become a scary team in terms of winning tournaments. But until they do that, I don't think it's going to work ever to becoming a top team.
Fucking suck, but we won, bro.
Take me back a little bit. How did you find Furia? How did you find your teammates?
Actually, it was the other way around. Furia found me. I was just playing Brazil and Furia had like team. I was playing with Yuri on another team. That's something that most people don't know. I played Fury for like, I think that was like 3 months. Then he left the team to join Furia. Furia was struggling to win tournaments in Brazil, and then they made changes. So Gihi became a coach, and then they got me and Caserato. And we started playing tournaments. So I kind of felt just in the first month of the lineup that we had like a very strong team in my hands.
Art is that style, not only because he's the IGL of Furia and as such, of course, he's the maestro deciding what kind of game they want to play, but also because he individually embodies that aggression and he always put himself kind of at the elm or the tip of the spear to make the difference for Furia, for good or worse.
The way I play, of course, that's a lot of reasoning behind that, but that's just the way I play. That's not like something that I really think about, like, oh, I'm gonna play like this, and I'm gonna improve like this. No, I just play CS the way I think it fits best, and the way I can extract more of myself, and I can put my teammates in better situations. You know, it's just CS, you know, CS is basically doing the best things you can do to win, so there's no right and wrong, it's just what can you do best.
It would be naive to say that just because they have the audience with them, they're going to win. That's obviously a simplification, but we know how emotional Brazilians are when they play Counter-Strike. We know they put everything on the table. We know they play with their hearts out. If there ever was a moment to fed off of that energy, that would be in Rio.
Remember, this is a major, and if you're playing Furia as the best team and you're starting to feel the pressure because of the crowd, then obviously that has a huge effect on you. If it starts getting too quiet in the arena, we have all been there, we all sit and play or listen to that, suddenly it turns really fast to high pressure for the home team.
No, I don't feel pressure at all because I work for this, so I don't have to be pressured because I just need to do what I need to do and what I love to do. So I don't feel pressure because of this. I feel thankful for being here.
It's gonna be more about life than only CS. When we join the server and we play, it's something more personal, something more real.
My parents are gonna be in Rio for sure. They love CS. My father loved to watch me. For me, he's my big supporter. He's like same than an analyst and a coach. He was calling me, hey, you need to do that. You need to be more calm. Do that. Help the kids. I was, okay, father, don't worry. I'm here.
Proudness and happiness to being able to play in front of Brazilian crowd, my hometown. I hope that we can make a good show for the Brazilian crowd.
Experiência maravilhosa poder estar tendo esse evento aqui no Brasil. Depois de tantos anos de luta, tantos anos que a gente passou para construir um cenário no Brasil. Não fiz absolutamente nada disso sozinho, mas fico muito feliz de ter conseguido, junto com vocês, tantas coisas que nós fizemos bacanas. Todas as pessoas que jogaram comigo, minha família, quem criou o evento, vocês fãs, todo mundo ajudou muito a gente mudar nossas vidas, né? E o jogo é isso, o jogo é muito mais do que só um tiro, é muito mais do que só tentar ganhar do adversário, é sobre você conhecer a si mesmo, conhecer outras pessoas, desenvolver habilidades, curtir, passar bons tempos. Às vezes, né, usar o game para esquecer alguns outros problemas, mas no fim das contas a gente está atrás de sentir as coisas, de se sentir bem, né? Eu espero que o jogo faça bem para vocês como fez bem para mim na minha vida e espero que a gente possa continuar juntos, compartilhando esse sonho que a gente tem através dos games por muito mais tempo. Muito obrigado por tudo sempre.
Fala, galera! Tudo bom?
Tamo de volta!
Vamos ter um jogão agora, Liminha.
Olha lá, a torcida gritando que o BT vai...
Não. Galera, é o seguinte, eu tenho uma boa notícia pra vocês. Nesse jogo, o Brasil vai ganhar! Galera, ajuda a realizar um sonho meu. Tem como puxar o celular? Acende o celular aí. Acende o celular aí rapidinho.
Olha,
tem como?
Ligeiro,
que isso, é ligeiro. O negócio é rápido.
Que agilidade é essa pra botar pra fora?
O negócio é rápido.
Que isso?
Aqui.
Insta? Que isso? Tá rápido, hein?
Aê! Liminha, outra coisa que eu queria que tu sabe que pega muito lá fora é a palma viking, né?
A palminha?
Tu sabe como é que é ela?
Eu sei.
A palma... Sabem? Alguém já ouviu falar da palma?
De pé, vamos lá, levantando.
Vambora, anima aí.
De pé.
Ó, o Liminha vai fazer aqui o ritmo.
Vamos lá.
Sabe aquele pause que você não tem o que fazer mais? Tu já gritou, aquele pausezinho que tu tá moscando. Pra gente não deixar parado, é assim, Liminha, ó. Tu vai vir aqui, tu vai ser o manequim.
Tá. Eu sou manequim?
Vai.
Você fala então, deixa eu guardar o mic.
Começa lento e depois é as palmas. Ó, vamos lá. Oh, 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 oh. Aê! Valeu, galera, tá lindo demais. A gente tá impressionando o mundo, pode ter certeza disso. Ô, Liminha, vai ter surpresa pra gente. Cadê? Cadê o homem com a surpresa?
Tá preparado aí? Olha lá.
Tá vindo, Liminha. Coisa boa, hein?
Realizou, BT?
Realizei, tô feliz da vida.
Agora é o seguinte,
o
que vai acontecer aí, BT? Que eu não sei, mas você sabe.
É o seguinte, com certeza teve alguém aí que perdeu a mala extraviada, deve estar sem roupa, Liminha.
Quem tá sem roupa?
Quem tá sem camiseta aí, ó. Agora a gente vai dar uma camiseta aqui.
Mas peraí.
Calma aí.
É o lado que estiver mais animado. Não vamos jogar pro lado morto. Quero ver animado. Cadê? Quem tá mais animado? Calma, peraí. Quem quer que jogue pro lado direito? Aqui. Eu quero ver gritando. Aê.
Ei, Liminha.
Mas quem quer que jogue pro outro lado aqui, ó?
A esquerda tá morta ali, ó.
Cadê? Mais barulho.
Pode dar?
Não, mas lá do outro lado tava mais alto. Cadê aqui?
Aí, Liminha,
pode jogar?
Ninguém me convenceu.
Vou
dar na meiuca
primeiro. Vai dar na meiuca? Cadê o meio? Aqui no meio? In the middle. Eita, preula. Que isso? Pegou o cruzeirense ali, ó. Olha o cruzeirense. Olha lá. Agora eu quero ver. Agora ali, ó. Do lado. Quero ver. Cadê?
Lá na direita. On the right.
Lá na direita.
Eita!
Aê!
Calma aí, quem pegou.
Aê!
Pegou.
Agora aqui, ó.
Lá naquele meio ali, que aquele botafoguense está descendo lá. Um destance. The Ugly Guy, Botafogos, Church.
Ali, ó.
There.
Aê, foi. Pegou.
Errou feio. Joga.
Cadê?
Ele quer aula! Ele dá aula nele! Começa daí! Calma. Ó. Vamos aqui, ó. Olha a aula, hein? Bora, começa daqui. Voltou, que vai, volta.
Aí.
E dali. Cadê? Dali lá. Não, tá fraco, garotinho.
Ei.
Joga lá no fundo. In the back, my friend. Upstairs in the back. Go there. Tá vendo o inglês do painel, Liminha?
Tá
desenrolado.
chato.
Ei, o homem tem uma performance, tem que respeitar o canhãozeiro aqui, ó.
Aê!
Dali. Ei, a galera da frente.
Tem mais. Aqui na frente.
Ô, Liminha, vai ter que fazer que nem no casamento do Pocão, ficar de costas e jogar pra galera da frente aqui, ó. Ei, Liminha.
Vai na mão.
Pega
eu vou na mão aqui da galera da frente
também. Pega daí, joga de costa.
De costa.
Vai.
Vou jogar de costa. Vou jogar.
Calma. Olha, minha, lamentável, meu irmão, nem pra
pegou?
jogar um negócio.
Não, pegou ali, ó.
Ei, eu vou jogar ali, que eu sei onde tem os familiares dos jogadores, é pra lá. Ó.
vai.
Aí eu meti que é pra cá! Beleza.
Foi.
Tem mais uma?
Tem mais uma aqui, ó. Vou jogar do lado esquerdo ali, ó. Olha lá, lá no fundo. Lá no fundo. Aí, pegou. Aí.
Beleza, galera, obrigado!
Mas agora, BT?
Ô, Liminha, eu quero saber o seguinte. Tem uma pessoa que é famosa aqui, uma das... Cadê a dona Cláudia, hein? Mãe do Safe. Tá lá em cima. Hoje também é aniversário do Coldzera, se eu não me engano, né? Cadê a família do Coldzera? Tem aí? Cadê? Tá ali? Quem tá lá?
Quem tá ali?
A dona Cláudia?
Pera, primeiro, calma aí.
Calma.
Pera aí, hoje é aniversário do Cold, né? Então eu vou falar aqui com a senhora aqui, ó.
Vem
lá,
aqui,
mãe do Cold aqui, pera aí. Eu vou ficar perto da senhora aí.
Fica do lado de lá, Liminha, daquele ladinho do lado de lá.
De lá? Eu vou ficar de lá, o BT vai ficar do teu lado aqui. Aí.
Tudo bom?
E aí?
Cold, eu te amo! Quer morrer?
Mas pera.
Como é que é seu nome?
Elisa.
Dona Elisa, tá muito feliz? É a primeira vez que vem no evento ou não?
Não, filho, eu acompanho todos os eventos, ainda mais Major.
Toda hora tá lá. Mas esse tá sendo especial, não tá?
Esse tá sendo especial que aqui, né, no Brasil.
E hoje é aniversário dele, é isso mesmo?
Hoje é mais do que especial. Galera, vamos puxar um parabéns pra você!
Vamos lá. Calma, vamos lá. 3, 2, 1. Parabéns pra você nessa data querida. Muitas felicidades, muitos anos de vida. Parabéns pra você nessa data querida. Muitas felicidades, muitos anos de vida. Agora sim! Ahá! Uhul! Coldzera, vou comer seu bolo!
Ahá! Uhul! O Coldzera, eu vou comer seu bolo!
Levanta aí, Cold!
Como é que tá agora, dona Cláudia? Olha lá, tá. Como é que tá o... dona Eli. Ó, como é que tá o coração?
Tá batendo sem parar.
Tá batendo?
Tá.
Ainda bem, né? Ainda bem que tá batendo.
Só falhar um pouco, mas agora tá batendo sem parar.
Vai, agora é vitória, agora.
Vitória.
Vai
Confio.
Então, um brasileiro vai ganhar.
Então é isso. Agora deixa o homem se concentrar. Já cantamos parabéns, a mãe já falou que ama. O carinho já tá entregue, né? Já. Bom jogo pra senhora aí.
Obrigado.
Prazer, viu? Obrigado.
Obrigado a vocês.
Tá aí, ó. Palmas aí, ó. Tá aí. E aqui, ó. Vamos pro lado esquerdo aqui, ó. Vamos pro lado esquerdo que tem aqui, ó. Vou vir aqui pro lado esquerdo, vou vir pra aqui. Que a gente já falou com o Coldzera, a gente falou com a 00. E aqui, ó. Oi, aqui a gente vai pro lado esquerdo aqui. Eu vou pro lado esquerdo, que a gente falou com a 00. Aqui, ó. Agora eu vou falar com a galera da Fúria aqui, Jaime. Vou falar com a galera da Fúria. Que a gente cantou parabéns ali pro Cold. Vem aqui. E agora, Fúria e 00, Jaime. Você gosta de falar, você gosta de ficar em cima do muro. Como é que tá aí?
Cara, vai ser um jogo bem difícil, mas é um prazer estar aqui no Brasil com essa torcida maravilhosa. Tomara que seja um grande espetáculo para todo mundo aqui hoje.
Tá aí. Tem camiseta aí da Fúria pra jogar?
Pra você?
Eu vou jogar pra galera.
Ah, não, a gente vai trazer.
Vai ter?
Vai ter.
Vai jogar depois?
Vai ter presente.
Tá aí.
Jaimão, confronto duro. A torcida tá feliz que vai sair um brasileiro vitorioso. Confronto duro. Tem como arriscar um palpite aí?
Cara, placar é difícil, mas vai dar Fúria. Certeza.
Zicou. Aí zicou, né? Alô, aí,
Vamos ver o Data Foda-se aqui. Quem acha que a Fúria vai ganhar? Grita aí! Quem tá torcendo pra 0-0, dá um berro aí. Pau a pau, uma ligeira vantagem,
Não, tá pau a pau, margem de erro aí. Tem gente que gritou pros dois, que eu tô ligado aí, ó. Vi uns caras ali, ó, uns nóia ali gritando pros dois. É isso, ó. Tem a galera gritando pros dois também. Tá aí, já. Tá aí, então vai sentar aqui? Tá aqui só batendo um papo, né?
É isso, por enquanto eu só aguardando a partida aqui. Coraçãozinho.
Tá acelerado, Liminha.
E aí, ó, e agora?
Ó, a galera chamou,
tá
a galera chamou, Jaimão. A galera chamou, vou lá, bom jogo pra você, viu?
Valeu, bom jogo pra vocês aí, obrigado, galera.
BT, temos mais, eu acho que uns 3 minutinhos.
3 minutinhos?
3 minutinhos, Pix e Bans daqui a pouco vai estar na tela aí.
Ó.
Temos mais um tempinho.
Ó, Gal, 3 minutinhos, dá pra você
minutinhos.
clicar aquele botão?
Que botão?
Que tá predefinido?
Vamos ver.
Eu vou
Se eu não
correndo
perdi
lá.
aquele botão, vai tentar, tenta chegar lá.
Vou correndo lá,
Tenta chegar lá, tenta
vou chegar lá, vou chegar lá. Pera aí, eu vou lá,
Vai,
eu vou
corre,
lá.
corre.
Eu vou lá. Pera aí.
Vai correr, Liminha, no seu tempo, viu? Se for pra ir nesse passo aí cansado, não dá não, garotinho.
Tô morto aqui, BT. Pera lá, segura lá. Deixa eu subir aqui.
Corre, Liminha!
Vou correr. Pera aí. Ó o Zac aí. Pera aí. Onde é que tava posicionado? Deixa eu passar,
na escada, Liminha, aí mesmo, na escada.
Deixa eu passar. Onde é que é? Deixa eu passar.
Avisa quando você chegar aí, Liminha.
Deixa eu passar.
Avisa quando você chegar aí.
Deixa eu passar.
Joga naquela, Gal, joga naquela.
Deixa eu passar, é aqui?
É aí?
É aqui, pera aí.
Eu vou tentar,
É aqui,
Liminha.
Gal?
Eu não sei.
Era aqui, BT? Deixa eu ver.
Posso apertar?
Joga naquela, vai, aperta.
Tô aqui, deixa eu subir aqui. Deixa eu ver. Tá, era aqui mais ou menos?
Eu não sei, eu vou apertar.
É na escada, Liminha.
Eu tô na escada.
Então vai.
Então vai.
Aqui, ó.
Lá no dedo.
Vai.
Olha lá, certinho, ó.
Perdi,
Ué.
Cadê?
Olha aí, errou, Liminha. Errou, Liminha. Errou,
Onde é que é isso?
Cadê, Liminha? Pera aí, vamos voltar. Vamos
Errei a
fingir que não
escada,
aconteceu.
escada.
Errou a escada,
mais pra
calma.
É aqui.
Calma,
Vai
Liminha,
lá.
respira.
Joga agora.
Vou jogar no Tigrão primeiro. Vou jogar no Tigrão aqui primeiro.
Que susto.
Tem que pedir pra jogar onde, garotinho?
Meu Deus.
Joga naquela, garotinho.
Joga aqui. No meio.
Olha, pega
no
isso
meio
aí, isso é estrutura.
Cadê?
Aê, cadê?
Cadê o Liminha?
Olha a direita.
Cadê o Liminha?
Olha a direita.
Olha
É
aí,
mais,
você tá indo de
mais.
novo, cara.
De novo.
Você
Joga no Vamp agora, joga no Vamp.
Joga no Vamp. Eu tô sem Vamp. Deixa eu ver se eu tenho Vamp. Eu tenho palco, do lado do Vamp.
Agora.
Ele tá
Vai de
legal.
novo.
Ele tá calibrado,
Ele
Gal.
tá
Joga naquela.
calibrado.
Calibrou.
Que susto.
Tá aqui
Que beleza, hein, Liminha? Que beleza.
É uma grande festa aqui, Gal. Olha só.
Olha
Tá aqui. Mais barulho. Olha lá, aê.
Toda uma estrutura, hein, Limas? Quem diria?
Torcida da Guarda Imperial aqui, ó. Guarda Imperial. Cadê? Quem tá torcendo pra 0-0 aí? Quem tá torcendo pra Fúria? Aí.
Olha o cabeção do Gal ali, ó.
Você vê de onde? Curitiba, eu sou de lá também. Aê, Curitiba.
Olha o cabeção do Gal do seu lado, Liminha.
Tá empurrando. Oi, Gal.
Olha o meu cabeção do seu lado aí, ó.
Cadê o cabeção do Gal?
Do seu lado direito, do seu lado aí, ó.
Olha o cabeção ali, o cabeção. Coube no papel, caramba, coube no papel? Que isso? Coube o cabeção do Gal no papel.
Que beleza,
esse é o mesmo da Suécia, hein?
Olha lá, coube.
Esse é o mesmo do Major da
Que isso,
Suécia.
tá uma loucura. Torcer, camisa da Fúria, vai pro...
Vai, porra, onde é Fúria, cara?
Arte vai cachorrar ou vai morrer sem fazer nada?
Arte vai cachorrar, vai ser faca hoje. Apostador de faca no Arte vai profitar hoje.
Que isso, ficou.
Olha lá, já
Ele
tem, ó,
ficou.
no palco, enquanto
Vai.
isso no palco, olha a roda do boleiro aí,
Vai
hein?
daí então, Gal, vai daí.
Tamo junto, Liminha, tamo junto, garotinho, velho Vamp, Tigrão, e agora, hein, velho? E agora, chegou o momento, 0-0 concentrada, Pix e Bans na tela e a Fúria tá ali, conversando.
Gal, acho que receberemos um grande presente agora, o clássico brasileiro do primeiro dia do Major.
Mirage!
É tudo que a gente queria, aí, ó, vamos pra Mirage. Fúria deve ser High Seed, deve começar de CT, né?
Cara, a gente tem aí um momento, né, que vai ter um time 1-1, E vai ter um time 0-2 aí, né, velho? Duríssimo, não é o confronto do 1 que a gente queria, né, velho?
Aqui é para manter o sonho ou então ficar com as costas na parede. É um presente, cara. É um presente de poder também, né? É difícil às vezes a gente ter a questão que um time brasileiro vai jogar contra o outro, mas ao mesmo tempo acho que é muito bonito a gente também ter o clássico dentro de casa aqui. É um momento histórico.
É um momento histórico aí, velho. Vambora, torcedores da Fúria, torcedores da 00. Expectativa aí, velho Vamp? Estamos chegando aí, ó. Mal começou o jogo, já passa aí dos 175 mil aí online. Aqui lotado também.
A gente continua na mesma expectativa, Gal. Um time brasileiro vence agora. O portão J espera para ser inaugurado. Acho que a gente chega em uns 280, 300 mil no pré, porque já tem Imperial também.
Beleza, velho. Então a gente saiu, tem os jogos, né? Quer trazer, Tigrão, a tabela aí? Porque tem esse round 2, a gente ficou com um monte de jogo, né?
Podemos trazer então o round 2. A gente teve a primeira parte do dia hoje, rapaziada. E agora vamos para a segunda. Vamos ter 00Nation e Fúria na Stream B Outsiders e IHC. Depois da sequência EG contra Mouse, Big e Bad News Eagles. E aí a galera vai ficar louca porque vem Imperial e 00, Vitality Gamer Legion. E a gente fecha o dia com OJ, Fnatic, Cloud9 e Greyhound. Hoje sai time 2-0 na boca da próxima fase. Hoje tem desespero do 0-2 e vamos que vamos.
Vai ser duríssimo, velho. Então Fúria e 00 no mesmo momento que tá rolando aí, né? Que vai rolar Outsiders e IHC. Bom pro nosso redondo, né? Se IHC vai caminhando, mas, né? Quer dizer, o IHC já foi, né?
A gente tá pelo Greyhound.
A gente tá pelo Greyhound, né? Que vai ser o último jogo do dia contra a Cloud9, que é bom também, né? Provavelmente acho difícil a Cloud9 tropeçar de novo. Então Fúria 00, no mesmo horário vai estar rolando Outsiders e IHC. Aí depois a gente vem pro primeiro jogo no palco, sem nenhum brasileiro. EG versus Mouse Sports. Vai ser um jogo legal aí de acompanhar no mesmo horário de Big e Bad News Eagle. Pra depois vir 00 Imperial junto com Vitality Gamer Legion. E pra fechar a noite aí no palco, OJ versus Fnatic, Cloud9 versus Greyhound, velho. Pra quem vai a nossa torcida aí, né, nos outros jogos, velho. Vamos ter que decidir, né?
Eu acho que até a gente vai ter uma noção melhor, porque depois desses últimos jogos a gente já vai saber pra onde é que os brasileiros vão, né? Então a gente vai ter uma noção de talvez qual seria o melhor caminho pra gente.
Vambora, Drop ali aquecendo, Coldzera, aniversariante do dia, recebeu parabéns. O Liminha ali tá querendo comer o bolo do Coldzera, né? Vamos ver, velho, vamos ver o que nos reserva. Taquinha aí, o Lato. Mirage um bom mapa também, né? Vai ser bem aberto aí, vai ser confronto bom, acho que não... Vamos ver, o CT vindo muito forte, né? E a Fnatic complicou, a gente falou de Fnatic e Cloud9, a Fnatic conseguiu complicar pra Cloud9, né?
Eram dois jogos que estavam avisados, o EG contra IHC,
foi
que quase deu, e tá aí o Fnatic surpreendendo o Cloud9 na primeira rodada. Deu uma movimentada legal isso aí, viu?
O engraçado é que, lembra, quando, na minha previsão de 9Z3-0, eu só precisava que a Cloud9 perdesse pro Fnatic, velho. Duro que a 9Z não ganhou, né? Olha...
O 9Z teria jogado contra a Vitality, eu acho.
Na verdade precisaria Imperial ganhar também. Tá aí,
Fúria ganhar, eu acho.
Também, velho. E
Era
vambora, velho, vambora. Tá aí, ó, torcedor aí, que beleza, que festa, velho, que festa. Daqui a pouquinho aí, então, 00 versus Fúria. E olha aí, ó, a máscara da Imperial, o torcedor de tudo que é time. Já tá confirmado, né? Fúria, então, de CT.
Sim.
O Chuckzão aí também, coach da 00. Acredita aí, poucos segundos para começar aí a partida, velho. Vambora. Acredita aí, 10 segundinhos aí, a bala vai rolar, velho. A bala vai rolar. E tá aí, ó. Já começa o som. É agora, velho. É agora. 00Nation versus Fúria. Diretamente do Rio Centro, diretamente da Tribuneira aqui no Rio de Janeiro. 4, 3, 2, 1. Começou! 00Nation versus Fúria. A Fúria vem de Yuri, Safe, Art, Drop ele, Cacerato. E a 00Nation vem de lato, trai do mal, taco e ele, coldzera! Lato já consegue pegar a primeira kill em cima do drop, o Cacerato consegue a kill de volta em cima do Lato e a Fúria começou de TR, né? Cacerato pega a segunda kill, 4x3, a terceira kill já do homem, aí Cacerato embalado, 3 jogadores mortos do time da 00, 4x2 do mal e coldzera vão ter que ir pra cima do clutch, coldzera com dual bereta, né? Já vai meio que reposicionando, duas, né? Dual bereta, uma no do mal, outra no coldzera, os dois estão com colete aí full, a dual bereta fica bom aí, né, pro time da Fúria, porque os dois vão guardar no momento, a Fúria vai abrindo, Fúria 1-0-0-0.
0-0-0.
Fúria favorita aí, né, nas odds do mal, consegue aqui e ele ficou ali, né, com 450 já do mal, mais aí o bônus que vai ter agora, e o do mal consegue, coldzera acabou caindo e do mal ainda segurou o colete 1 aí pra ele, velho.
A família argentina, hein, Gal? Que bonito.
Olha, que bonito, né, velho? Que bonito. E aí o torcedor, velho, o torcedor, olha aí. Comecinho de segundo round, força, né, o do mal. Acabou ainda ficando com a Eagle, ficou a Scout pro try. A dual bereta, o Lato ali tá de dual bereta e Famas. Comecinho de segundo round, 1-0 pro time da Fúria. E vai puxando. Brasil! Brasil! Já tá saindo do caminho de rato, olha a ligação, tem jogadores ali por cima do L, o Try vai tentando alguma coisa no meio da smoke, agora o Safe é quem tá colando na ligação, tem de olho nele ali o Lato, ele tem que olhar o Moscou, olha embaixo, do mal tava ali ligeiro, pegou a arma, o Yuri consegue aqui no do mal, mas o Lato já insta-trade. A bomba ficou, né, ali na parte do L, o Art vai tendo que passar, coldzera de 5-7, consegue aqui muito forte a 5-7, a gente tem falado isso já faz tempo, Art drop de galhar, o round fica bom, o round fica ótimo, né, pro time da 00, mas o Art vai passando pelo L, ele tá desconfiado do Lato, consegue aqui em cima do Lato, o Taco consegue agora aqui em cima do drop. O Art não sabe em posição, consegue aqui em cima do taquinho, vai botando, deu fake plant, consegue aqui em cima do try, 1x1 agora, coldzera versus Art, o Art já tem ali 3 kills, pegou a informação, 8 segundos, o coldzera vai chegando, tá de galhar, não acertou a primeira, né, o primeiro spray pra cima do Art, o Art tá ali esperando, e aí acerta o tiro, mas não ganha o round, coldzera, hoje tem clutch no coldzera, tá aí, 1-1, tudo igual, duríssimo, né? O fiscal do Eco pode anotar, é contra a BR, não é?
Acho que bota o meio ponto aí, mas o Art jogou muito bem esse clutch aqui, o problema é que o Cold já estava numa posição bem superior a ele para finalizar aqui, e round que machuca um pouquinho o Furia aqui, viu? Acabou tomando cruzado no L ali, perdeu a bomba.
Pelo menos plantou a C4, né?
E vamos ver se o fiscal do Eco tá correto aí, né? Foi meio, 1,5.
1,5, né? Já estamos com 1,5 aí.
Depois disso aí.
Depois a gente vai dar uma olhada aí nas anotações do fiscal de Eco. Fúria, força que conseguiu, né? Pelo menos o plant no segundo round, força o terceiro, Fúria, 00Nation, terceiro round aí dos possíveis 30 rounds a serem jogados. Do mal vai olhando.
Safe trazendo mais scout de TR, né? Interessante.
Scout.
Tem uma casinha no drop ali.
E tem as Tech 9, né, velho? Tech 9 que o time da Fúria aí tem usado bastante também. Todos os times conseguindo fazer bastante impacto aí com a Tech 9. Vamos ver, o Yuri vai passando aí pra carroça. O Cacerato vai chegando no tapete, a entradinha ali do Bomb B. Vai tentando parar o Lato lá de baixo. Tomou bastante dano o Art, hein? Art com 23 de HP, agora do mal. Pega o drop de lado, tem ali do lado dele o Art, o safe, acaba caindo pro taco. Art com 23 de HP, Cacerato 41 e o Yuri, que ficou ali com a Scout, vai tentando achar pelo L, consegue acertar o Lato, mas não consegue a kill, ficou aí com bastante também dano o Yuri. Lato, cai o Cacerato, cai o Art, é só agora o Yuri vai ter que guardar, não vai guardar, ele vai pra cima, ele tá de Tech 9. Ele tem a C4 também, Tech 9, Scout, colete 2 e a C4 e um sonho. Vai abrindo, 2-0-0, 1 pro time da Fúria, aí complicou, hein, Tigrão? Vai ter que ser eco agora, olha aí, ó. Ê, beleza, hein? Olha aí, que bonito, né?
Agora, uma coisa que eu tô me lembrando aqui, Gal, que a gente tá acompanhando aqui o clássico brasileiro no Major, mas essa é uma partida que no primeiro semestre aconteceu. Na SL Valência a gente teve uma melhor de 3, valendo sobrevivência também entre Fúria e 00 e deu 0-0, 2-0 em cima do Fúria, né? Então aqui também tem até um tom de revanche pra galera do Fúria.
Verdade, né? O Art vai posicionando já pro tapete. Tem o derby brasileiro, né, velho? O Lato vai tentando varar a parte da cozinha. Todo mundo aí de bloco do time da Fúria.
E olha a câmera do torcedor.
Olha aí, né?
Tá tenso, man? Relaxa.
Calma, calma.
Vai ficar tudo bem.
O Brasil vai ganhar esse jogo, né? Tá esperando do mal, olha para cima, trai na cabecinha. Uma bala ali para cima do Cacerato. 4x5, toda a festa aí do torcedor. E o drop esperando, muito provável aí também os caras conversando, né? O time da Fúria tem um round aí, tem 55 segundos, vai deixando a 00 gastar as utilitárias e vai conversando também, ó. Já vem a Molotov. Só ali é menos 600, velho. Ainda tem bastante coisa para atacar o time da 00. E o time da Fúria vai deixando, né, esse espaço aí, Coldzera, na uma kill de grátis aí do Gil, acabou que veio 2, 3. E o time da 00 abre, velho. Não teve o troca-troca do Maestro, né?
Aquele aqui gostoso ali. E acaba então que o 00 leva a disputa financeira de início de jogo aí. Agora, outra coisa também, pelo menos que a gente percebeu aqui nos jogos, é que fazer round de terra tá complicado até agora, né? A galera do Fúria teve muita dificuldade contra o Big também. Tem que botar marcha aí, senão começa a vir o espanco.
Aí, ó, feliz aniversário. É Pava?
Pava?
É Pana? Tá aí, feliz aniversário, né? Quem faz aniversário esse ano aí, ó? Feliz aniversário, velho. Porra, que honra, né? Fazer aniversário no mesmo ano que o Apocão, né?
Com certeza, velho.
Fúria 1, 003 é o quinto round aí, comecinho de quinto